Eager to see what was inside the new library, the 12th essay contest winners quickly gathered behind Dr. Zinchenko. "This way, children," said the head librarian. "Follow me." The crowd cheered as they marched out of the ballroom, all toting their sleeping bags and suitcases. There was more cheering, plus some hooting and hollering, when they reached the hotel lobby and went out the revolving doors into the street. The new public library, with its glistening gold dome, took up half of a downtown block, its back butting up against an old-fashioned office tower. The building was a boxy fortress, 3 stories tall, with stately columns that acted like bookends, because the windowless walls had been painted to resemble a row of giant books lined up on a shelf. "It's like a majestic Greek temple," gushed Miguel. "And the world's biggest bookcase," added Sierra Russell, who had finally put away her paperback book. Velvet ropes lined a path across Main Street that led to a red carpet leading up a flight of steps to the arched entryway and seriously steel, not to mention round, front door. Kyle had to smile when he saw what was tethered to the railings on either side of the steps. Balloons. A big bruiser, that's a guy, maybe 6'4", 250 pounds, in sunglasses and a black sports coat, stood out in front of the library's circular door, which had several large valve wheels like you'd see on a submarine hatch. The burly guard wore his hair in long, ropey dreadlocks. "What's with that door?" asked Haley Daly, who of course had pushed her way to the front. "It looks like it came from a bank vault or something." "It is the door from the old Gold Leaf Bank's walk-in vault," said Dr. Zinchenko. "It weighs 20 tons. Akimi turned around and whispered, "My dad designed the support structure for that thing. Check out the hinges." Kyle nodded. He was impressed. "Why a vault door?" asked Kayla Corson. "Because," said Dr. Zinchenko, "one sleepy Saturday, when Mr. Lemoncello was your age, he was working in the old public library over on Market Street. He was so lost in his thoughts, he did not hear the sirens as police cars raced past the library to the bank, where a burglar alarm had just been activated. This door serves as a reminder to us all. Our thoughts are safe when they are inside a library. Not even a bank robbery can disturb them." Miguel was nodding like crazy. He could relate. "It also helps us keep our most valuable treasures secure." "There aren't any windows," observed Andrew Peckelman. "Probably to stop the bank robbers from busting in. But shouldn't you people have added windows when you turned it into a library?" "A library doesn't need windows, Andrew. We have books, which are windows into worlds we have never even dreamed possible." "An open book is an open mind," added Charles Chiltington. "That's what I always say." Dr. Zinchenko pulled out a bright red note card. "Before we enter, please listen very carefully. Your library cards are the keys to everything you will need," she read. "The library staff is here to help you find whatever it is you are looking for." She smiled slightly, tucked the card back into her pocket, turned to the security guard and said, "Clarence, will you do the honors?" "With pleasure, Dr. Z." Clarence turned one giant wheel, spun another, and cranked a third. Noiselessly, the 20-ton door swung open. The first thing Kyle could see inside was a trickling fountain in a grand foyer of brilliant white marble. The fountain featured a life-size statue of Mr. Lemoncello standing on a lily pad in the middle of a shallow reflecting pool 10 feet wide. His head was tilted back so water could spurt up from his mouth in an arc. Kyle noticed a quote chiseled into the statue's pedestal. "Knowledge not shared remains unknown. Luigi L. Lemoncello." Beyond the fountain, through an arched walkway, was a huge room filled with desks. When everybody had shuffled into the entrance hall, Dr. Zinchenko turned to the security guard. "Clarence." Clarence hauled the heavy steel door shut. Kyle heard the whir of spinning wheels, the clink of grinding gears, and a reverberating clunk. "Wow," said Miguel. "Talk about a lock-in." "I'll be in the control..." "Oh, sorry, let me do that again." "I'll be in the control center, Dr. Z," said the security guard. "Very well, Clarence." Clarence disappeared behind a red door. "Now then, children," said the librarian, "if you will all follow me into the rotunda reading room." As the rest of the group started filing into the gigantic circular room, Kyle checked out a display case beside the red door. A sign over it read, "Staff Picks, our most memorable reads." A dozen books were lined up on 4 shelves. On the cover, one cover in the middle of the bottom row caught Kyle's eye. It showed a football player wearing a number 19 jersey dropping back to hurl a pass. Kyle made a mental note of the title, "In the Pocket, Johnny Unitas and Me." Tomorrow morning when the lock-in was over, he might use his library card to check it out for his big brother Mike. "Wow!" Everybody gasped as they stepped into the rotunda reading room and looked up. The entire underside of the dome looked like space as seen from the Hubble telescope. A dusty spiral nebula billowed up. A galaxy of stars twinkled and meteorites whizzed across the ceiling. Oh! The space imagery on the ceiling dissolved into 10 distinct panels, each one becoming a display of swirling graphics. "Those are the 10 categories of the Dewey Decimal System," whispered Miguel, sounding awestruck. "See the panel with Cleopatra, the guy mountain climbing, and the Viking ship sailing across it? That's for 900 to 999, history and geography." "Cool," said Kyle. Tucked beneath the 10 screens and in arched niches was an incredible 3D statue glowing a ghostly green. "I believe those are holographic projections," said Andrew Peckelman, waving up at a statue that was waving down at him. The room under the dome was huge. It was circular with a round desk at the center that was surrounded by 4 rings of reading desks. Kyle saw that half of the rotunda was filled with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. The other half had balconies on the 2nd and 3rd floors that reminded him of the open atrium of a hotel he and his family had stayed at once. While everybody was gawking at the architecture, Dr. Zinchenko said the words Kyle had been waiting to hear all day. "Now then, who's ready for our first game?" Chapter 12. "Will everybody please line up behind that far desk in front of the children's room," said Dr. Zinchenko, gesturing toward one of the wooden tables in the outermost ring of the room. "How many of you are familiar with Mr. Lemoncello's classic board game, Hurry to the Top of the Heap?" 12 hands shot up. "Very good," said Dr. Zinchenko. "Overhead, the Wonder Dome is dissolved into a gigantic curved heap box top. This will be a live 3-dimensional version of that game. Each of you will be asked a trivia question. If you are able to answer it correctly, you will roll the Z dice and advance the equivalent number of desks. When you return to the starting point, you will move into the next concentric circle of desks. When you complete that ring, you will move into the next, and so on. If one of you makes it all the way to my desk as the center, you will be declared the winner." "But we don't have any dice," said Yasmin Smith-Snyder. "Yes, you do. See that smoky glass panel in the center of the desk? It is actually a touch-screen computer currently running Mr. Lemoncello's dice-rolling app. Simply swipe and flick your finger across the glass to toss and tumble the animated dice." Dr. Zinchenko placed a stack of red cards on her desk. She looked like the host of a TV game show. "Before we begin, are there any other questions?" Charles Chiltington raised his hand. "Yes, Mr. Chiltington." "What will the winner win? After all, the prize is the most important part of any game." Kyle didn't totally agree, but he was too excited about playing the game to say anything. "Tonight's first prize," said Dr. Zinchenko, "is this golden key granting the winner access to Mr. Lemoncello's private and very, very plush bedroom suite on the library's 3rd floor. Instead of spending the night on the floor in a sleeping bag, you will be relaxing in luxury with a bed, a 72-inch vision screen, and a state-of-the-art game console." Okay, Kyle was definitely interested in this particular prize. Judging from the wide-open eyes and the chorus of oohs and ahs and wows all around him, so was everybody else. Dr. Zinchenko flipped over the first question card. What Major League pitcher was the last to win at least 30 games in one season? Six better for Kyle. Right. Glenn. He saw roll 10 at desks around the room. What United States Navy ship was once captured in North Korea? Miguel, that one. The U.S. He flew the room. Did eight could have been before. Kimi, Andrew Puck, and Caleb struck out on one. Charlton to the first hit the moon. Quarter landing him last. His next question was tougher. Who was famous saying no mom that I on high he's being specific. The one with shiny hair that he's correct. Kyle breathed sigh of thank goodness he and Hunters watched rerun TV show teen series. He flicked the computerized dice, his luck at a brick. He rolled snake eyes and moved up 2 measly desks. Meanwhile, Miguel went down with a question about Barbara Streisand. Kyle wasn't really sure who she was. And Charles Chiltington surged ahead with a correct answer about the Beatles, Hey Jude, and a double sixes roll. As the game went on, Kyle and Chiltington, the only players still standing, kept answering correctly and moving around the room until they were both seated at a desk in the innermost ring, only 6 spaces away from Dr. Zinchenko's desk and victory. Kyle, seriously, he and his mom had played so many games of Trivial Pursuit with the original, extremely old cards. Kyle, here is your next question. What song in the movie Dr. Dolittle won an Academy Award? Kyle squinted. He had that movie, an old VHS cassette tape that his mom had bought at a garage sale. Too bad they didn't have a VCR to watch it on, but even though he'd never seen the movie, he had read the front and back of the box a couple of times. Now, guys, there's a brand new Dr. Dolittle movie out, isn't there? I think that was just out in the movie theaters. Is the answer talk to the animals? Correct. He started breathing again. Roll the dice, please, Mr. Keeley. Kyle did. Another pair of ones. He moved up 2 spaces. Now he was only 4 desks away from winning. Mr. Chiltington, here is your next question. Who was elected president in 1968? I believe that was Richard Milhouse Nixon. You are also correct. Chiltington didn't wait for the librarian to tell him to roll the dice. He flicked his fingers across the glass pad. Yes, double sixes again. He moved around the last ring of desks, tapping their tops, counting them off, even though everybody knew his 12 was more than good enough to carry him to the finish line. Congratulations, Mr. Chiltington, Dr. Zinchenko said as she handed him the key to the private suite. You are this evening's first winner. Thank you, Dr. Zinchenko. I am truly and sincerely honored. Congratulations, Charles, said Kyle. Way to win. Get used to it, Keeley, he answered in a voice only the other kids could hear. I'm a Chiltington, and we never lose. Chapter 13. What happened next was extremely cool. A holographic image of a second librarian appeared beside Dr. Zinchenko at the center desk. She looked a little like Princess Leia being beamed out of R2-D2 in Star Wars, except she had an old-fashioned bubble-top hairdo, cat's eye glasses, a tweed jacket with patches on the elbows. Here to present our official library lock-in rules, said Dr. Zinchenko, is Mrs. Gail Tobin, head librarian of the Alexandriaville Public Library back in the 1960s when Mr. Lemoncello was your age. Overhead, the Wonder Dome had shifted back to its 10 Dewey Decimal displays. How old is she? Asked Sean Keegan. She'd be 110 if she were still alive. But she's dead and working here? Let's just say her spirit lives on in this hologram, said Dr. Zinchenko. Mrs. Tobin's the one who helped Mr. Lemoncello so much, Kyle whispered to Akimi, when he was a kid. I know, her hair looks like a beehive. Kyle shrugged. From what I've seen on TV, the 1960s were generally weird. Welcome, children, to the Library of the Future, said the... Oh, whoops, sorry, I gotta read this differently, guys. Welcome, children, to the Library of the Future, said the flickering projection. Dr. Zinchenko will now pass out Lemoncello Library floor plans, your map and guide to all that this extraordinary building has to offer. Your new library cards will grant you access to all rooms except the Master Control Center, the red door you passed on your way in, and of course, Mr. Lemoncello's private suite on the 3rd floor. Charles Chiltington dangled his golden key in front of his face. I believe you need this to enter that. Mrs. Tobin ignored him. She was a hologram. That made it easier. Security personnel are on duty 24 hours a day, she continued. During your stay, all of your actions will be recorded by video cameras, as outlined in the consent agreements you and your parents signed earlier. Are we going to be on a reality TV show? Asked Haley, smiling up at a tiny camera with a blinking red light. It is a distinct possibility, said Dr. Zinchenko. I like television, said the ghostly image of Mrs. Tobin. Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In is my favorite program. Returning to the rules. The use of personal electronic devices is strictly prohibited at all times during the lock-in. The security guard, Clarence, and a guy who looked like his identical twin brother entered the rotunda, each of them carrying an aluminum attaché case. Kindly deposit all cell phones, iPods, and iPads in the receptacles provided by your security guards, Clarence and Clement. Your devices will be safely stored for the duration of your stay and will be returned to you at the conclusion of our activities. Also, you may use the desktop pad computers in this room to comb through our card catalog and conduct internet research. However, these devices cannot send or receive email or text messages, whatever those may be. Remember, I retired in 1973. We still used carbon paper. And now Dr. Zinchenko will walk you through the floor plan. Everybody unfolded their map pamphlets. As you can see, said Dr. Zinchenko, fiction titles are located here in the reading room. The children's enrichment room with soundproof walls is over there. 2 fully equipped community meeting rooms as well as the Book Nook Cafe behind those windows where the curtains are drawn are also located up on this floor. Upstairs on 2, you will find 10 numbered doors, each leading into a chamber filled with books, information, and, displays related to its corresponding Dewey Decimal Category. Kyle raised his hand. Yes? Where is the Electronic Learning Center? Dr. Zinchenko grinned. Upstairs on the 3rd floor, where you will also find the boardroom, the art room and artifacts room, the IMAX theater, the Lemoncello Abilia room, the... Can we go upstairs and play? Asked Bridget Wage. I want to try out the space shuttle simulator. I want to learn how to drive a car, said Sean Keegan. A race car. I want to conquer the world with Alexander the Great, said Yasmin Smith-Snyder. Apparently, everybody was doing what Kyle had already done, checking out the available educational gameware listed on the back of the floor plan. Early access to the Electronic Learning Center will be tonight's second prize, said Dr. Zinchenko. To win it, you must use the library's resources to find dessert, which we have hidden somewhere in the building. Whoever does the research and locates the goodies first will also be the first one allowed into the Electronic Learning Center. So use your wits and use your library. Go find dessert! Everybody raced around the room and sat down at separate desks to start tapping on the glass computer pads. Well, everybody except Sierra Russell. She spent like 2 seconds swiping her fingers across a screen, wrote something down with a stubby pencil on a slip of paper, then wandered off to inspect the 3-story tall curved bookcases lining the walls at the back half of the rotunda. Kaya watched as she stepped onto a slightly elevated platform with handles like you'd see on your grandmother's walker, and even had a basket attached to the front. Dr. Zinchenko? Yes, Ms. Russell. Is this safe? Because the book I want is all the way at the top. Yes, just make sure your feet are securely locked in. Sierra wiggled her leg. Kyle heard a metallic snap. It's like a ski boot, said Sierra. That's right. Now use the keypad to tell the hover ladder to the call number for the book you are interested in and hang on tight. Sierra consulted the slip of paper and tapped some keys. The bottom of that platform you are standing on is the magnet, said Dr. Zinchenko. There are ribbons of electromagnetic material in the lining of the bookcases. The strength of those magnets will be modulated by our maglev computer based on the call number you input. 2 seconds later, Sierra Russell was floating in the air, drifting up and to the left. It was absolutely awesome. The hover ladder must use advanced magnetic levitation technology, said Miguel, seated at the desk to Kyle's right, just like the maglev bullet trains in Japan. Cool, mumbled Kyle. And for the first time in his life, Kyle Keeley wanted to check out a library book more than anything in the world. Chapter 14. How about we work together, said Akemi when she sat down at Kyle's table. Kyle couldn't take his eyes off Sierra Russell. She had drifted up about 25 feet and was leaning against the railings of her floating platform, completely lost in a new book. I'm going to tell you guys a little secret. I think this is one of the coolest things about the library, is the fact that you can, float up on these platforms to get books way up high in the library. Pretty cool. Hello, Earth to Kyle. Do you want somebody else to get first dibs on the Electronic Learning Center? No? Then focus. Okay, so how do we use our wits in the library to find dessert? Akemi nodded toward Miguel, whose fingers were dancing across the screen of his desktop tablet computer. I think he's doing a search in the card catalog, whispered Akemi. Why? It's how you find stuff in a library, Kyle. I know that, but we're not looking for books about dessert. We need to find actual food. Andrew Peckelman stood up from his desk and sprinted up a wrought iron spiral staircase leading to the second floor. 2 seconds later, Charles Chiltington was sprinting up the staircase behind him. All the other players soon followed. Everybody was headed to the second floor and the Dewey Decimal Rooms. Miguel finally popped up from his desk and made a mad dash for the nearest staircase. It's got to be up in the 600s, you guys, he called out to Kyle and Akemi. Thanks, said Kyle, but he still didn't budge from his seat. I guess the 600s is the Dewey Decimal category where you find books about desserts, said Akemi. Maybe we should... Wait a second, said Kyle. Kyle, in case you haven't noticed, you, me, and glider girl Sierra are the only ones still on this floor. And Sierra isn't really on the floor because she's floating. Hang on, Akemi, I have an idea. Kyle pulled out his floor plan. Dessert is probably hiding in plain sight, just like the bonus codes in Squirrel Squad. Follow me. Where to? The Book Nook Cafe, the one room in the library where, according to what Dr. Zinchenko told us back at the hotel, food and drinks are actually allowed. They strolled into the cozy cafe. Woohoo! Shouted Akemi. The walls were decorated with shelves of cookbooks, but several tables were loaded down with trays of cookies, cakes, ice cream, and fruit. That's why the curtains were closed behind the windows into the rotunda, said Akemi, so we couldn't see all this food. Way to go, Kyle. Kyle did his best imitation of Charles Chiltington. I'm Akemi. We never lose, except, of course, when we don't win.